pretty good. I fell asleep on it when I was over there. I did. I was wolf slap out. I've been in the garden all day. But anyway, I did get to see her though. I got to see her for about 5 minutes. But anyway, no, she looked like she was doing good. She told me she hadn't been taking any pain medication except for the occasional ibuprofen or Tylenol. So that's a good sign after that part of a surgery. So, and that's good. I haven't told anybody yet, but I just found out. My niece, I don't think any of y'all have met her. She'll be 17 in October. She's in the hospital down in Charleston. She was in a stolen vehicle. First one of two was thrown through the windshield.
Let's stand together. Let's worship the Lord this morning.
And minds, healing brokenness. I feel a generation breaking through despair. I hear a generation full of faith declare, and our song it will be. Out of the darkness we will rise and sing, and He is faithful, and He is glorious, and He is Jesus, and all my hope is in Him. He is freedom, and He is healing right now. He is hope, joy, and love, and peace, and life. I have seen the light, like the break of dawn, giving blind men sight, letting lame men walk. I see a generation with resurrection life. We are a generation filled with the power of Christ, and our song it will be. Out of the darkness we will rise and sing, and He is faithful, and He is glorious, and He is Jesus, and all my hope is in Him. He is freedom, and He is healing right now. He is hope, and joy, and love, and peace, and life. He has paid the highest price, and He has proven His great love for us. and proclaim my love for him. Oh, he has paid the highest price. He has proven his great love for us. We will praise him with our lives and proclaim my love for him. And proclaim my love for him. Eternal home, but for now I walk this broken world. You walked it first, you know our pain, but you show hope can rise again up from the grave. Abide with me. Abide with me, and don't let me fall, and don't let go. Walk with me, and never leave, ever close, God abide with me. There in the night, Gethsemane, before the cross, before the nails, overwhelmed, alone when you prayed, you met us in our suffering and bore our shame. Abide with me, abide with me, don't let me fall, and don't let go. Walk with me, and never leave, ever close, God abide with me. A love that will not ever let me go. A love that will not ever let me go. You never let me go. A love that will not ever let me go. Up ahead, eternity, we'll weep no more and sing for joy. Abide with me. We'll weep no more and sing for joy. Abide with me. Abide with me. Abide with me. Don't let me go. Don't let go. Walk with me. Never leave. Never close. God abide with me.
what you say, that you're good, your love is great. I'm broken inside, I give you my life. Oh, I may be weak, your spirit's strong in me. My flesh may fail, my God, you never will. And I may be weak, but your spirit's strong in me. My flesh may fail, my God, you never will. Give me faith to trust what you say, that you're good, your love is great. I'm broken inside, I give you my life. I may be weak, but your spirit's strong in me. My flesh may fail, my God, you never will. Come on. And I may be weak,
Your spirit's strong in me. My flesh may fail, but my God, you never
will. I may be weak, but your spirit's strong in me. My flesh may fail, my God, you never will. I may be weak, your spirit's strong in me. My flesh may fail, my God, you never will. I may be weak, your spirit's strong in me. My flesh may fail, my God, you never will. I may be weak, your spirit's strong in me. My flesh may fail, my God, you never will. Up from the ashes, your love has brought us out of the darkness into the light, lifting our sorrows, bearing our burdens, healing our hearts. Oh yeah, to our God we lift up one voice, to our God we lift up one song, to our God we lift up one voice, singing hallelujah. To our God we lift up one voice, to our God we lift up one song, to our God we lift up one voice, singing hallelujah. The chains have been broken, eyes have been opened, an army of dry bones is starting to rise. Death is defeated, and we are victorious, for you are alive. To our God we lift up one voice, to our God His praise. Song to a God we lift up one voice, singing hallelujah. To God we lift up one song. To God we lift up one voice, singing hallelujah. To a God we lift up one voice. To a God we lift up one song. To a God we lift up one voice, singing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. shout your name, God. Just want to shout. You are awesome, holy and mighty God. Thank you so much for what you do for us, God. We honor you and praise you, Lord, in the name of Jesus. Amen.
On billboards, it's not on TV, it's not on the radio. Hallmark don't even care about it. It's not even a big deal to them. And of course, you know, moms are like, whatever, it's just another day, right? It's the one day that moms think, if nothing else, this will be the day that my kid will actually appreciate me. Just today. There's 365 days, but if for one day out of those 365 days, if today will be the one day that they'll actually appreciate me, it'll make it all worthwhile. Make it all worthwhile. It's like, oh, you know, they don't care if I'm breathing, they don't care if I'm alive, they don't care about anything other than I have money to hand them or a meal to prepare for them or I wash their clothes. But today is the day that it's all about me. It's all about me. And we get all excited about it, and, you know, there's no guilt, but, you know, if you don't call your mom today, guys, you know what it's going to be like tomorrow. But you know what the funny part is even if for some reason you forget or whatever, your mom, the day after she gives you a hard time and guilt you to death, she's going to forget all about it. She's not even going to care anymore. So the other day I was thinking about this, and, you know, I was thinking, you know, I wonder if I asked a group of people, my friends, who is the biggest, or who do you recognize, or who do you admire the most out of the Bible for being a mom? And it was for male and female, and of course no guys responded. But I have somewhere around 2,500 friends on Facebook, something like that, and I got 5 responses. 5. And I thought, that's sad. That's sad that we don't think about it. It's sad that this was an opportunity for you to think about it, and only 5 people responded. But then out of the 5 people, I was a little bit even more kind of sad or disappointed. Because one of the things you've heard me say here a lot is, I don't want your Sunday school answer, I want the truth. I want you to be looking for something. I want you to be diving into it. So guess what the answers was I got? I got Mary. Oh, I got 2 Marys. I got Eve. Huh? Nope, I didn't even get that. Nope. Did I get one? And I was like, how come nobody's digging into this? Really understanding what the role that the mothers played in the Bible. Yeah. Guys are like, whatever. But more importantly, why don't women know? Because you know what? The Bible is very clear about how we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to act. And if you're a Christian woman, you're a Christian man, one of the things that you should be doing is looking for examples. That's what the Bible's filled with, examples of what not to do. Because all the dirty laundry is in the Bible just as well as the clean laundry. Right? So I was wanting people to dig, and I was wanting them to kind of try to figure out, you know, who really relates to you. Not the Sunday school answer of, I know about these 3 women. Because if you grew up in church, you know about those 3 women. You know about Moses' mom. You know how much she loved Moses, and she trusted God, and she put him in a little basket, and tied it up all night, and threw him in the river to save his life. And you saw the little, if you're as old as I am, and you saw the little felt stickers that they would put up on the little thing to show the story. and they had a little basket they'd stick on there and the little weeds, and then they would take that off and they would split up. And you watch that, and then, of course, everybody thinks, Mary is just, the only thing Mary didn't do was walk on water. That's the only thing they left out. So everybody thinks, Mary's great. And, of course, Eve, you can't forget about Eve. But let me tell you something a little bit about these moms that I want you to understand. And the reason why I wanted people to actually look into it and say, hey, who do I really relate to? Is that if you don't take your time to study these women, you find out once you do that these women weren't perfect either. We portray them as perfect, but they weren't perfect. Because you know who Eve was? Eve is the mother of sin. Is she not? She walked with God. She talked with God. She didn't know of God. She saw God face to face and walked with him. I would envision she probably held his hand at times, had deep conversations with him. And her first two born children didn't understand that, obviously. One of them ended up killing the other. Why? Because sin was introduced by who? By Eve. But we're like, oh, Eve's great. But what did Eve do? Did she give up? Did she quit? No, her and Adam, they kept going. And then we have Seth, and the nation was built off of Seth. And it continues going. And then you have Sarah. We consider her the mother of many nations, right? She had Isaac, and out of her, and everybody's like, oh, Sarah's awesome. Do you know that Sarah laughed at God, mocked God, made fun of God, didn't even wait on God like some of us don't like to do? She's like, I'm going to take this in my own hands. I'm going to do this all on my own. See? Sarah wasn't perfect. And then no one mentioned, but I'm surprised, no one mentioned Rebecca. Oh, the mother of Jacob and Esau, and, without her, what would we have? But, Rebecca was the mother of deceit. Remember how she tricked her husband because she wanted her son to receive the inheritance, not the other? She pitted kids against each other. And then what about Bathsheba? Oh, no, let's not talk about her because, she was the other woman of David. Yeah. But, she is also the first woman to find that God forgives and blesses. Because guess who she had? Solomon. And then we had Jochebed, which is consider her the mother of faith. She had Moses. And then, of course, Mary, we consider her the mother of salvation because she had Jesus. And there's not much said about her. We don't know how perfect she is. We do know that she knew who Jesus was, and when Jesus was 12 years old and he went to the temple, she forgot who he was, remember? She come running back there saying, why did you do this to your father and I? Why did you make us worry? Why did you do this? And he said, did you not know that I would be in my Father's house? Did you not know where I would be? So I start that way, and I wanted to introduce everything to that because some of us sitting here, moms or future moms or grandmoms or whatever, we're sitting here thinking, I'm not a mom like the Bible. I've made so many mistakes. I'm not perfect. I wish I could do this over. I wish I hadn't have married this person. I wish I hadn't have done this. I wish I hadn't have done that. But every woman in the Bible that we consider someone that we want to look up to is the women that are in the same boat as you were in. And God used them just like he's going to use you. But it has to start somewhere. It has to start somewhere. So I wanted us to look at kind of what's the foundation to not necessarily make everything perfect, but at least get us on the right track to getting where we want to go. So I'm going to apologize right off the bat, and I told Crystal this morning when I told her a little bit about what's going on. I said, look, this isn't going to be your traditional, all moms stand up, let's honor them, they're great. Moms are great, don't get me wrong. But I wouldn't feel like I was doing my job if I didn't help our mothers, our young people, our people that are getting ready to be mothers, if I didn't tell you the truth about what the expectations are. And a lot of times you find out that, and we find out in the management world, that the reason why people don't succeed in what they're doing is because they didn't understand what the expectations were at the very beginning. You understand that? Think about it. And things that you have failed at, if somebody it's mostly or you disappointed someone, it's probably because you didn't understand what they expected out of you. So you can't set the bar high and not tell them where the bar is. How are they going to reach it? So you got to tell them what's expected. And unfortunately, as we watch the world continue to evolve, we see that history in the Bible and history in man are continuously repeating itself over and over and over again. And even though we have this continuous cycle going on, we haven't decided to learn anything from it. Do you understand? So we learned it from the beginning with Eve, what happened, and you would think, oh, well, we learned our mistake of what happened with Eve, so let's don't make that again. And then we learned that we didn't learn anything from the mistake with Eve, and then we get into the flood. And you think, oh, well, here we go, this will be fine. God's going to start all over with Noah and his family is going to be fine. And then what happens? We start all over again where we left off with Eve. And then we get to the Tower of Babel, and you think, oh, okay, well, this is finally going to get it. He's going to separate us, make us behave. What do you do when your kids misbehave? You separate them, right? You separate them. And then when they calm down, you can bring them back together, right? Or you're like me and you tie them together. You're like, you're going to love each other one way or the other. You're stuck with each other for life, so figure it out. You can't undo it. And so God looks down and says, look, this is chaotic. This is crazy. You guys are nuts. Boom. And he separates them and throws them all over the world. And then that didn't fix the problem. And so he says, look, I'm going to send Christ down there, and that's going to fix it. I'm going to send him there. You guys are going to have a choice. You're going to know what it's like. You're going to know how much I love you. That's going to do it. And then that doesn't fix the problem. And here we are, 2018, and we're right back where we were during Noah's time. We're exactly in the same place. The same problems, the same issues. So we go all the way through all of that, and Paul is getting ready to send out this young missionary, and he's wanting him to set up a church. And he's like, look, I need you to do this right. It's not written in there. I'm paraphrasing how I think he's talking. Look, Titus, I need you to do this right, dude. And you're a pretty clever dude. You're pretty small. So I'm only going to say it once, and I'm only going to say it in a very short book, which happens to be one of my favorite, because I like things that are straight to the point. Don't spend 20 minutes trying to tell me what you're trying to say. Just say it. Let's get it over with. Be done with it. And that's what he does. Paul goes, look, I'm just going to be straight for you. I'm going to tell you exactly how it is, how you need to set this church up. And the reason why he did that is so that the church would continue to grow. And not only would the church grow, but the people would grow, which is more important than the church growing. If you understand what I mean. And so that there would be a continuation on and on and on of how to fight these battles, how to be successful in life. So look with me in Titus chapter 2. And we're going to start at verse 4. I'm going to set it up a little bit and go to verse 3 just so you know what we're talking about. It says, likewise, he's talking to Titus, teach the older women to be reverent in the way they live, not to be slanderous or addictive to much wine, but to teach what is good. So he's telling Titus, look, let's make sure the women knew. And then he goes on, and then they can, this is what the women can do, the older women, the mature women in Christ. He says, then they can urge the younger women to start doing some things. And see, what I think the problem is we've lost that. We've lost that. Now, before all you guys start looking at your moms and your wives and girlfriends and all that, Father's Day's coming. I just want to remind you. Okay? And I'm sure that some of you may not be here because you don't want to hear what you're supposed to do. But I want to remind you that I think that this is where the problem is. I think this is where part of our problem with it all is that we have first lost the ability to learn. We've lost the ability to teach. We don't know what to teach anymore. But he says that you are to urge your younger women, teach them, instill in them certain things. Certain things. The first thing he wants them to do, he says that women to love their husbands and children, to be self-controlled and pure, to be busy at home, to be kind, and to be subject to their husbands, so that no one will malign the word of God. See, the first thing he tells them to do, he says, you got to love their husbands and their children. See, if you don't teach moms, your daughters, how to love their husband, if you are disrespecting your husband, if you're like looking at other people, if you're doing these things, what do you think your child's going to do? And you're like, oh, well, I don't have any daughters. I'm out of the woods. What do you think your sons are learning from you? It goes both ways. But see, you're supposed to teach them to love their husbands and to love their children. How do you do that? By example. You don't say, hey, you're not supposed to talk to your father that way, and then you talk to their father that way. Because monkey see, monkey do. You ever hear a 2-year-old curse? You think they made up that word? Nope. They saw it from the monkey. Monkey sees, monkey do. And what do we do as parents? Don't you do that. I learn. You got to urge them. Look, the Bible tells me I'm supposed to love my husband. I'm going to love them in a biblical way. I'm going to love them in a spiritual way. I'm going to love them in an emotional way. I'm going to love them in a physical way. And I want you to want that. I want you to want that. Because let me tell you something, ladies. Those of you that are in the same boat as most of us that are here that have made the mistake and you found out what that meant, don't you wish you knew ahead of time? Isn't that what makes you cry at night? Is when you sit there and you think, oh, I wish I found this at the beginning. Why did I have to wait? Then you look back and you go, I wasn't taught. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of you are like, oh, well, I mean, I taught my kids. I don't know what the problem is. Well, we know kids go awry. But it says if you teach them right in the way they should go, they'll come back to it. So yes, sometimes it's not. But more than likely, more than less, especially in today's society, nobody's teaching women how to love or to be loved. And they're out finding it from guys that don't know how to do it either. Only in math does 2 negatives make a positive. Only in math. In life, 2 negatives continue to make it negative. He says, you urge your young women to love their husbands. How many churches, and I know most of you have been to some other church at least once or twice, how many times do you hear them looking at you going, look, the key to all this is your happiness depends on your ability to love your husband. Why don't you? Well, he won't take out the trash. We're not talking about doing, we're talking about loving. We're talking about emotions. We're talking about choices that you make every single day. See, you understand, love is a choice. It's not an emotion. We call it an emotion, but it's not. It's a choice. There's days, I promise you, and I can tell you 100% that it is not a lie, from the look in her eyes that Crystal don't love me that day. The only thing that's keeping me alive at that particular moment is the fact that there's a high probability she'll get caught and go to jail. I know that. But she chooses to look at the fact that, hey, I do love him and I chose to love him, and today is not one of those days. But tomorrow will be. Tomorrow will be. See, when we argue, man, I want to tell you how this works. And I'm not telling you from experience. I'm telling you because told me recently even. And like she mentioned, we've been married for once or twice a day, two or 3 days, something like that. And so I haven't figured it out. Because I'll tell you how it works for me. I go to her, she's upset, and I'll say, hon, what's wrong? Nothing. And it's in that tone of voice. So it's not like, okay, nothing. No, really, what's wrong? Nothing. What's wrong? Nothing. So what I have learned is nothing means something. Nothing means it's probably you. But my mind says, I got to fix this right away. But the only way I can fix it is to find out what's wrong. And she refuses to tell me what's wrong. So that escalates me to going, oh, I'm going to find out what's wrong now. So I have learned how to figure out what's wrong. You guys want to know what it is? I pick a fight with her. I'll pick a fight with her. Because that's the fastest way for me to figure out what's going on so I can fix it. And so I'll pick a fight with her. And then so we'll start arguing. And in the process, I'll figure out what's going on. And I'll be like, babe, why don't you just tell me right off the bat? Well, I didn't want to fight. You know we're going to fight anyway, but we probably won't fight if you'll tell me. And then it's like, well, I haven't processed through it yet. I haven't processed through it yet. And I'm like, yeah, but it's been like 10 minutes since you told me nothing, and now you're telling me what's going on? How do you process through it once you're mad at me, but you can't process through it when we're not arguing? How does that happen? And so for me, we're done. We've talked. I've told her what I think, told her what she told me what she thinks. We're now got it all going, and we got a conclusion, and somebody or both of us have said we're sorry, because usually both of us are wrong, mostly me apparently. But we go through all that. No, it don't happen. So I think we're done. I'm good. You good? We're good. Handshake. Walk on out of here. Let's go out on the deck and enjoy the sunset and drink coffee and have a conversation. No big deal, right? She still don't love me. And she told me yesterday or whatever day it was, she goes, oh, this will last 2 or 3 days, you know. I'm like, 2 or 3 days? It's been over. No, I'm still hurt. Why are you hurt? Because you fought with me. I wouldn't have fought with you if you just would have told me what was wrong. Oops, lost the button. That's why we don't have nice things at this church. Oh, well, it's in here somewhere. But you see, the thing of it is that even though all that happened, and I should know better, and I should not pick a fight, because I know eventually she'll either figure it out, or I don't like that time that we're not connected. That's what it boils down to. I just don't like that time that we're connected. And if I can't get us reconnected some way, somehow, now I'm like killing myself. And so it's like, I have learned this is the only way I'm going to figure this out. And as painful as the argument is, at least I'm going to get to a conclusion and figure things out so I can move forward, I can do something different. But see, her love for me hasn't changed. And so now, when they find out that we're fighting, the kids know that it doesn't mean that it's the end. Oh, well, they're fighting today, so, that's it. We're going to be packing our bags, somebody's moving out. They know, no. They know that within however long. For me, I'm like hugging all over. I'm like, hey, war's over, babe. We did good. No guns, no knives, no black eyes for me. You didn't throw any of my stuff out. My bike keys are still where I left them. We're good, right? He's like, no. we're not good. So I'm like trying to love on her, and she's like, what are you doing? You know this ain't what I want. I'm like, what I do? I mean, we're made up. We're good. She's like, no, we're not. But even through that, even though they know that there's been something go on, they're learning that, hey, this is okay. You can have these arguments, and you can have love. But in too many times, we see where people can't manage that. And we see things being thrown. We see things being broken. You know, there's kids that'll tell you, you know, I've seen my parents get so mad. I've seen guns come out. I've seen knives. And it's like, and we wonder, because they didn't know how to love. They didn't know how to love. So here's Paul telling Titus, look, make sure. I mean, we're just in the 2nd chapter, and he goes straight to it. Make sure that the young women know how to love their husbands and children. Make sure they're being taught how to love their husbands and children. Can you imagine right off the bat, he's telling them that? You know, this should be natural, but unfortunately, sin has interfered with it. Lust is breaking up a lot of marriages. Lies have broken up a lot of marriages. A lot of kids are being destroyed because men and women are going out chasing something that isn't attainable, and their kids are weighing them down, so they're like, whatever. Look over in Romans chapter 1, verse 3. Or excuse me, 31. He says, they have no understanding, no fidelity, no love, no mercy. If you go to 29, he says, they have become filled with every kind of wickedness, evil, greed, and depravity. See, sin has immediately came into our life. It came into Adam and Eve's life and started the problem there. And then here we are in Romans, and he's saying, look, this is all that it's filled with. They don't understand anymore. And then Paul goes to Titus a little bit later and says, dude, this is so important. It's so important that you teach love. Women, I'm going to tell you right now, it ain't never too late to start teaching the young women. If you're an older, mature woman and your kids are off and gone, and you're in this church, there's women in this church right now that need to learn how to love, how to learn. There's teenage girls that are in here that are looking for the wrong things no matter what, and they need reinforcements to say, look, this is not what you want or what you need. This is what you want. This is what you need. And here's why. Here's my scars. They're the same scars your mom is complaining about. They're the same scars as this person has. And we don't want you to have these scars because they're deep and they hurt and they take years and years and years to get over. I want to teach you this because you know what? Out there in the world, they're not teaching them any of this. It is our responsibility here in this church. We may not have 500 people. We may not have 1,000 people. We may not have 100 people sitting in here. But we have enough people in here to change this town. But it starts with one person deciding they're going to put down and lay down and teach somebody what's in the Bible. No more of this, all I care about is filling the fuels, filling the gas tank, having programs, stuff like that. All I care about is making sure people know how to love each other. That was the first thing he said to do, was to love each other. Divorce is the highest in churches than it is out in the secular world. So are pastors doing a great job of teaching that you're supposed to love each other? The whole reason why Christ came here was why? Because God so loved us. He set the example. And yet, churches can't seem to tell people, look, we got to pass this on. We're either going to pass on the good traits or the bad traits. It's up to us. Guess which one we're passing? That's what I thought. The older women have to start training the younger women. Even though we know that it's lacking, even if a kid's a teenager, even if a kid's a young adult in college, even if the kid has already made mistakes, you can still teach them. You can still set the example. But we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere. The second thing he tells them to do, he says to be self-controlled and pure. There's guys that don't like women that are self-controlled. I like them wild and crazy. But you know what? That's that wild and crazy. It drives me crazy. But you know, they're not talking about being wild and crazy in that sense. It's talking about having control of who they are, what they are, recognizing who they are, that they're a gift of God, that their body is a temple. See, women nowadays have gotten to the point to where you don't have to guess about anything about women. You don't have to guess. You can find out all kinds of things. I remember it was a big deal if you found out that a girl had a mole on her back. It was like, oh, you found that out? How'd you find that out? Now it's like, oh, do you know they got a mole on their butt? How'd you find that out? Well, dude, it's right there. Look. Oh. Oh. A guy that is not a professed Christian put a post out the other day, and some of you may or may not seen it. And I know this young man. He's in his 20s, and I've talked to him a couple times and been praying for him. And I think he's trying to figure things out. But he posted the other day, and he said, where are all the marrying type women at? Where are they at? And it was funny as I'm following the chain of comments, and I'm listening to some of these young girls jump in there and comment, and some of the other guys, and I mean, he's down to like 40-something comments on a simple question like that. And I could tell from listening to him, nobody was bringing him an answer. Because nobody knows. It used to be simple. Hey, dude, you need to start going to church. That's where you'll find them. That ain't the answer anymore, guys. Why is that? Because the women in church aren't practicing it either. I talked to a pastor the other day, and he was talking about his story, and he was like, you know, I used to be a youth pastor at this church, and and he's young, he's a young kid, and he said, I kind of got involved with this older woman, and got too involved. And I said, too involved? He said, yeah, you know what I mean, too involved. He said it got to the point to where I had to step down from my position. And I looked at him and I said, what happened? And he said, I saw more than I needed to see, and I wanted it. I said, did you guys like build a relationship? And he said, no, I saw more than I needed to see, and I wanted it. At church. At church. He saw more than he needed to see, and he wanted it. You know, ladies, it's easy to be happy, proud of whatever gift God gave you, but you know he gave it to you for a reason. And that reason wasn't to go out and attract multiple people. It was for one person. It was for that person. But see, we don't understand anymore. Women are complaining. Today it's crazy. It's crazy to me of how I can figure out women that are out there complaining about, we're not respected, we're not this, we're not that. And then they come walking in, and half of everything they own is being shown. They walk in, and they're putting those things on the guys that they want to impress. Why do you think the men don't respect you? Why do you think? And see, if we don't teach them that, Arden gets so mad at me, she spits nails. So I'm like, that ain't going out of here. Or, that's not being worn in here. And I'll look at Crystal and I'm like, did you see that? I'm like, Arden, there's not a difference between paint and those shorts. They're about on the same way. If you farted, they would literally explode. Let's try something different. I ain't going nowhere. You're in my house. And I don't want it in my house. And then I look at Mom and go, where do those come from? Oh, those were her when she was 10. They fit now. But what do you think the little boys are thinking when they see those girls walk by? Well, but that's what everybody at school's doing. And guess what? That's why we have a country with the highest teenage pregnancy of any other country in the world. One, they don't know what love is because nobody taught them. And two, they go out and they don't know how to be decent. They don't know how to be sober. The other part about it that's real funny is, guess what your sons are going to go looking for? Sons are going to go looking for the same thing. This is a sidebar, but I'm going to just give you my personal thing, and I don't know, a couple of you will relate that's been out in the motorcycle world. There's nothing worse to me, embarrassing to me, as seeing a 60-year-old lady. Look, I don't even have to finish. He knows exactly what I'm going to say. And you walk in going, and she's like, and you're like, and before it's all over, there's some guy going, and of course, well, he's more like, but still. And it's like, seriously. And then the young girls are seeing that, and they're like, ooh, well, that's what I got to do. And they're doing the same thing. It's what you teach. Society didn't evolve into this. Society was taught to be like this. Do you hear me? Society didn't evolve into this. We have taught society to behave like this. And you know who did it? We did. People that profess to be Christians, churches, we're the ones that did it. Because we said, oh, I'd rather 9 billion people come to my church and give me money so I can have all this stuff than to sit here and tell you what the truth is. And only 30 people show up. I drove by a big church today, and they didn't have enough parking with people bringing their moms to church today. Or sons going to church because their moms wanted them to come to church today. Not enough parking. They were parking all over the place. I wonder what their sermon is today. I wonder what they're going to tell them. Moms, you can tell the truth. What's more exciting, that your child hands you a package wrapped up, or what's inside the package? Which brings you the most joy? The fact that they brought you a package and remembered you, or what's inside that package? See, guys, that's what we got to teach women. Is that, you know what, guys? Women, daughters, for your husband to appreciate you, you got to give him the package first. And then let them find out what's inside the package as they get to know you. Because that's what matters the most. Because once I'm done with the gift, I'll forget about the gift, but I'll never forget about what it was like the first time I received that gift. And the feelings and the emotions that went through my mind and my heart when your child hands you that gift. You remember that. You might forget what the gift was, but you remember them making that homemade card, that the spelling was wrong and the picture was crooked. Ellis made Crystal a card and gave it to her. I mean, and of course, you know, I'm a loving father. Crystal's like, oh, I love the homemade cards the best. And I said, yes, they are great. When the power goes out, they burn the fastest. We can light a good fire. And of course, Ellis knew I was joking. But she's looking at it, and it's like, but she meant it. These are what mean the most to me, because it's everything you have you gave to me. You put thought into it. You processed it. You know what? There is nothing more rewarding to see a husband and a wife that come together, and they've come together for the very first time. There's no things that happened in between. It's like, I was waiting just for you. You know how many kids are on birth control now? Middle school kids, teenagers, have no clue what it's like, what the responsibility that it comes with it. All they know is everybody's doing it. The package is ruined, it's gone. You can try to rewrap it. I mean, we all regift, right? You can't regift it. He says to make them, have them be sober. Have them be well controlled. Meaning, let them control their body. Let them control what they think. Let them control what they say. We don't teach that anymore. We can't do it, so we can't teach it. Right? He's just trying to set up a church, and right off the bat, it's like, look, they got to love, and you know what? You got to teach them how to. You got to teach them how to be a little bit discreet. You got to teach them how to be discreet. Got to teach them how to be pure of heart. That's hard, isn't it? You got to teach them that. Where are they going to learn that from? A bottle? Drugs? Boyfriend? The kids that are the same age as them? Your best friend that's going through the same thing you're going through? See, I always thought it was funny when if we used to go through the corn mazes as when the kids were little. Seth and Sheridan were little, and you know, if anybody been through a corn maze, so we were getting ready to go through a corn maze, and I would find someone that just went through the corn maze to find out how to get through it. Little Seth at the time, he would ask somebody that was right beside us how to get through the corn maze. And I'm like, son, they don't know any more than we do. Well, they look like they can figure it out, but they don't know any more than we do. But this guy over here just went through it. He knows how to get through it. That'll keep us from making mistakes. See, what we like to do is we like to go to people that are going through the same thing we are and are dumb enough to think they know how to get through it. Needless to say, because he was little, I was like, fine, we'll do it your way. We were there for a little while. And if you think about it, how long are you in the middle of your maze because you're following someone that don't know where they're at either? So finally I'm like, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I got to go to the bathroom, we're out of here. And I went and followed what the guy that knew how to get out got out. It's part of my button. Or a button. Look over in 1 Corinthians 7:34. It said, and his interests are divided. An unmarried woman or virgin is concerned about the Lord's affairs. Her aim is to be devoted to the Lord in both body and spirit. But a married woman is concerned about the affairs of this world, Now she can please her husband. See, he's saying that the women, young women, should be focused on what God has for them, not focused on what man can give them. But too often we're busy trying to marry off one of our kids. Too busy, we're trying to help them seek what's going on in the world. Oh, well, you know, everybody's looking like this, everybody's dressing like this, everybody has all this, and we're not focused on making sure they understand what God has for them, what God wants for them. And then we're like, well, how did I go so wrong? How did I go so wrong? So he says you got to love them. You got to make them self-controlled and pure, and to be busy at home. So what's a homemaker? Anybody know? Probably not. Because I don't know, is there any homemakers in here? Nope. Everybody in here is a working person, right? Does that change your responsibility? No. You're still responsible for the home. Like it, hate it. That's what it is. You're responsible to make the home a home. You know, a homemaker defined as a keeper at home, one who looks after domestic affairs with with care. Takes care of the duties of the family. A virtuous woman might be engaged in an economics affair outside the home, but does not neglect her family. Now, how many of you are getting ready to say, but that was during the Bible time, that doesn't matter now? Go ahead, raise your hand. That women never were responsible to go outside the home to do anything. They all had it made. They stayed home, raised the kids. They got in a little circle and gossiped, all that good stuff, but they really didn't have to do anything else. Yes? No? Maybe? Let's look over in Proverbs. Chapter 31. Now, if you want, you can read 10 through 31, but I'm only going to pick out 3 verses I don't want you to see. In 16, he says, she considers a field and buys it. What does that mean? She goes shopping. Out of her earnings, whose earnings? Hers, she plants a vineyard. Look over in 24. She makes linen garments and does what? Sells them. And supplies the merchants with sashes. In 31 it says, honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. See, women, we feel like, or at least what I hear a lot is, well, I'm a failure because I have to work. But the proverb just says, praise to her. And there's nothing I think that is harder, or for me, is I would put Crystal against anybody when it comes to, any man when it comes to working hard. Because I don't know how she does it. I don't know how she goes, works an 8-hour, 10-hour day, comes home, makes sure we have something to eat, yells and disciplines the kids, makes sure that I'm taken care of, and still lays down at night and goes for sleep and wakes up in the next morning and does it all over again. Make sure the kids get to school, make sure they have enough lunch money, make sure they have what they need, goes to work, works all day. While at work, take care of little things, doctor's appointments, make sure everything's scheduled, come home, make sure we have food, make sure we have groceries, make sure we have dinner, and starts the process all over again. She does it every day. And then it's like, well, let's take a vacation. You need a break. Okay. And you know what she does? She starts planning the vacation. We're going to go here. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Are we going to take the bike? Are we going to take the kids? No, I don't want the kids. Me neither. I hate them. Okay, let's take the bike. And it just keeps going and going and going. But it's because she understands that she's the one that's capable of doing it. How she does it, I don't know. I was a single dad. I had to do it for a while. It's like pregnancy, I guess, or having a child. I don't remember how I did it. All I know is I don't want to do it again, and I don't know that I could do it again, but I had to do it then. It confuses everybody when you change that role. You do understand that? When the husband starts being the homemaker, it changes everyone's perspective of how things are. Now, am I saying husbands shouldn't help around the house? No. There's some things I don't like to do, and Crystal knows that, and she's been gracious enough to not cause me trouble, and there's some things I like to do, and I don't mind doing them. I don't mind doing the laundry. Why? It doesn't disturb my day. I throw it in the washer, and I sit down. When it's over, I get up, put it in the dryer, and I sit down. When it's done, she gets it out of the dryer and folds it and puts it away. Laundry's easy. I don't mind doing it. But you see, how is the balance? Because if a young daughter doesn't see the wife taking care of the home, how is she going to take care of the home? If a husband a son doesn't see the wife taking care of the home, how's he going to find a wife that's going to help take care of the home? Take care of the kids. Take care of him. How's that going to work? We know how that's going to work. How many single mothers are out there today? That's how well it works. Why? They get mixed up with a guy that represents what they had, blah, 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 and it just keeps going over and over. Why? Because we're not teaching them. We're not teaching them. Why do you think we have the kids down here during worship time? Anybody know? Yeah. From who? You. That's the whole reason, is because I want them to learn how to worship from you. If they see you talking, laughing, goofing off, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to laugh, talk, goof off. You think they're going to know how to worship God? No. No. I want them to see people. I want you to help teach them. This is how you worship. This is how you give praise to God for what He's done for us. There's people that are afraid to pray in front of their kids. Why? Where do you think they're going to learn how to pray from? When you taught your kid, because it was the thing to do because you had a child, and you sat in the bed next to him with them, and you both held your hands, and you tried to teach them, now I lay me down to sleep. How did you do that? You sat there, you put your hands together. Okay, put your hands together. But then when it comes to saying, how do I pray for real? You're like, can't help you with that. Why? Because I don't do it. I don't do it. So then, they don't know how to praise and worship God because I'm never there with you when you do it. They don't know how to pray because I never heard you pray before. I didn't know my dad knew how to pray. You know how to pray? People talk about it all the time at church about what a good prayer you are, but I've never heard you. That's why I want them in here. That's why 12 and under or 12 and over come in here. Because guess what? Real life is out there, and they're dealing with it. They don't need to be upstairs learning Bible studies and learning kid games. They need to know what to do in real life situations, because unfortunately they're facing the same stuff you are, day in and day out. They're making the same choices not only that you made, but that some of us are still making today, and they need to know how to get through it. I want them to look at you and say, what does that mean? And you be able to answer them. This is what he's talking about. This is what the Bible means. I'm hoping to create conversations between you and your child so that you can continue to teach them, mold them, and grow them into what they need to be, not into what the world wants them to be. See, the devil wants them in hell. You as a parent should not want them in hell. See, the Bible is very clear, is our role is not to be friends with our children. If we be friends with our children, guess where our children is going to end up? They're going to end up in hell, because we're not going to push them to do more and be better. We're supposed to do what to our children? Parent them. I told Crystal when we first got married, I said, look, my role in this whole thing is one thing, and that is prepare my children for adulthood. That is it. If during the process we become friends, that's awesome. But that's not my concern. Because they may hate me one day, but the next day they're going to go, crap. I got a 21-year-old, and she's in that crap mode right now. Oh, I know what you mean now. I now know why you were saying that. And she's still going back and making mistakes, but she's at that point now where she's like, oh, I see. See, I wanted to parent her, not be her friend. I wanted to make her have educated information so she can make educated choices. Does that mean she made good choices all the time? No, she's still stupid. She's my kid. She don't have a choice. Came with the blood. But she has an option, and she can make a choice. Someone posted the other day, and I loved it, and Crystal and I were actually talking about it this morning. Do you realize that not making a choice, you've made a choice? When someone says, do you want to do this, you want to do that? And you're like, I have to think about it. And you're like, okay, what do you want to do? I haven't decided yet. Yes, you have. You've decided not to make a choice, therefore you've made a choice. And we've been okay with that. It's like, no. Majority of things are simple. It's a yes or no. I will, I won't. I can, I can't. We've created this, I'm just not going to decide thing. But you have decided. You ask somebody, do you believe in Christ? Well, I haven't decided yet. Yes, you have. You've decided not to. There is no, I have not. You decided not to. Someday you may decide to, but right now you've decided not to by saying, I haven't decided. I have not decided means, hey, Sean, you want to go for a ride? I don't know. I haven't decided yet. We ain't riding, so obviously the answer is no. Now, Sean wouldn't say that. Sean would be like, yeah. Are you going to finish preaching? No, who cares? Somebody else can do it. But if he would say that to me, well, I don't know. Well, you've decided because we're not riding. You've already decided. Are you going to take the job or not? I don't know. I haven't decided. Well, as of right now, the answer is no. You're not taking the job. Or am I going to teach my kids? Am I going to teach the young women how to take care of a home? Do you realize that 75% of freshmen that go to college, 75% of freshmen that go to college do not know how to do laundry? It's like the same percentage don't know how to make toast. They have no clue. And you know what the answer is that they come up with? We're going to start a home ec class. Why? Because their mom don't know how to do laundry. Their mom don't know how to boil an egg. Their mom don't know how to do toast. Nobody's teaching nobody. When I went to school, we had a home ec class. Some of you may have had it too. Part of it was designed on normal things that guys like to do, and then the rest of it was the stuff that we hated to do. We had to sew on buttons. Which was fine, because when I went in the Navy, I was the only one who knew how to sew on a button, which was cool. I was like, yeah, $10, I'll sew your shirt back on. No big deal. But we had to do, my first thing, and I still made it for my kids because it was the coolest thing, was our little, what did I call them? Those little biscuit, or little pizza bites. No, these are pizza bites. And all they were a can of biscuits with sauce and pepperoni and cheese, and you threw it in the oven, and you had your own pizza bites. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Of course, now you go and you buy it out of the store, and you don't have to do anything. You just throw it in and you feed it to your kids, and everybody's happy. But we learned how to make those because they told us, said, look, you might come home one day after school and your mom and dad not be there, and you need a snack, so let's teach you how to make these. And they did away with it. They don't teach that anymore. But not only do they not teach it in school, which is not the school's responsibility, they don't teach it at home. Oh, I don't want them to worry about that, so I'm going to get them this microwave stuff. And they just throw it in the microwave, no big deal. This guy posted the other day, and I loved it, and it's probably the favorite thing I've ever read. He said that you realize that the reason why we have the Medicaid programs, we have the homeless issues and all that, is simply because the church failed to do what God commanded them to do. Because the Bible tells us to do what? Number one, take care of the widows, take care of the poor, and take care of the children. Who did he command that to? The church. So the church failed to do that, so what happened? The government decided to do it. So that's why they created Medicaid. They created all these programs to take care of the same people that the church are obligated and commanded by God to take care of. So you have churches, and I'm not slamming anybody, they might be full Bible churches, whatever, but you have churches where the pastors are getting hundreds and thousands of millions of dollars, and right outside their gate of their home is a homeless community that's on Medicaid, that are getting housing assistance and all this stuff. And he's sitting there going, yeah, I'm preaching the word, I'm all about the word. But the Bible tells us take care of the poor, take care of the widows. If the churches, and you realize how many churches and pastors we have today, it's crazy. It's crazy. And yet we have homeless people. The Medicaid program is outrageous. And yet we have these programs. Why? Because we're not teaching people how to be homemakers, how to take care of things, how to do what they're supposed to do. So he says, love your husband and children. Be self-controlled and pure. Be busy at home. And then he says, be kind. Be kind or good. You know, it's the be kind, the be good part, we struggle with that with sin in our lives. Churches falter all the time simply because of a gossip. Just because of a rumor. Just because someone decides, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this away from you. He says them to be good, to be kind. Be beneficial. Help people. We don't do that anymore. I come to church on Sunday, I punch my card. I brought my kids to church on Sunday because, you know, that's what parents do, right? When my kids get old enough to make a decision, you'll never see them at church anymore if the kid don't want to come. The reality. Kid don't want to come anymore? Fine, we just won't go to church anymore. I was only going because I was taking you because I thought it was the right thing to do. I really want to be there either. And once you're old enough, we won't be going to church anymore. So it says no. Be useful, be beneficial, be good, serve each other, love each other, help each other. And then he finishes it with, and be subject to their husbands. And we talked about that on the men thing. That doesn't mean, guys, that you can go tell somebody else's wife, some other dude's wife, what to do. Or talk to her in any way, shape, or form in a way like that. It's their husband. They're only supposed to be obedient to their husband. So people tell me all the time, those that have talked to Crystal don't mind telling you what she thinks. Anybody talk to her? She'll tell you what you think. She don't care who you are. She don't care what position you hold. She don't care about any of that. She'll tell you what she thinks. And people come up to me and they're like, dude, you know, your wife, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, that's my wife. And if I ask her to do something, she'll do it. If you ask her to do something, it's got to come through me first. You don't talk to my wife that way. I don't care who you are. I don't care what title you have. You don't do it. I don't do it, so you're not going to do it. She's not going to be obedient to you because of whatever position you hold, because you are not her husband. And the Bible says that she's to be obedient to her husband, not to anybody's husband, so that no one will misalign or malign the Word of God. See, obedient means to place oneself in submission. It doesn't mean to be placed in submission. You understand that? You got that? So sometimes guys forget that, and sometimes women forget that because they think that they mean they're going to become servants to their husbands, and that's not what it says. It's a choice to be submissive. Some men and some women think, well, it means we're not supposed to talk back. Like I said, you guys know Crystal. She shares her opinion, and I cherish her opinion. But because of Scripture and the way the Scripture is lined up, she'll be the first to tell you. Somebody has to make the final decision. And whatever that decision is, I have to live with it that I made the right or wrong decision, and she's got to live with the fact that she's got to do it. Do I leave her out in the decision-making process? Absolutely not. Because then at that point, she's not being obedient, she's being my servant. So I include her, we talk about it, we discuss it. Do you believe this, that in some things I give up my right, my authority over that situation? I'm like, you got it. I trust you enough that I'm relinquishing my authority over whatever it is. You manage it. Now, Crystal and I, believe it or not, are not perfect in our marriage. Sometimes she forgets and we'll discuss something and she'll do it her way. Sometimes I forget to be loving and I remind her. Tried it your way, didn't work, maybe you should do it my way. But the flip side works too. Believe it or not every decision I make is good. I think there was one. It was before I met her. After that, it's been pretty good. But she'll remind me, oh, remember when we tried it that way, which, by the way, was your way? You really want to do that again? Okay, well, let's look at another way. So he tells us to be obedient, which is something that we struggle with. Over in Ephesians 5:22, we won't go there simply because everybody probably already knows that. But it talks about, wives are to be submissive to their husbands. Matter of fact, it says, wives, submit yourself to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. So I struggle with that verse, and I've had conversations with people with that verse, especially, women trying to get their perspective of that. And I'm like, okay, what does that verse say to you? It says to be submissive, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. So what do you think that means? Women, somebody tell me what you think that means. I'm sure has anybody not heard that verse ever before in their entire life? Okay, everybody's heard it before. What do you think it means? Somebody tell me. What does that mean? Anybody know? Submit to your husbands